moving to the alter ego origin story. Keith, I love that lab idea. Great. Mixing their traits. It's exactly what, I did with mine, and it's a bit of an advanced move. So every hero has an origin story. Your alter ego's origin is the driving force for your alter ego. It's what propels your alter ego to stand up to the enemy, to defeat it at any turn. It's the driving force you also seek, or the driving force you seek is usually found in the origin story of the alter ego. It fills in the blanks and explains where your alter ego came from, why it's doing what it's doing. It's answering that. It's the purpose side of it, how it developed its superpowers, maybe even why it needs the superpowers, what they fight against. Again, all of the stuff is pulled from myth and legend. So why not use this as a powerful way to just, connect even more deeply to the alter ego and why it's doing. And you can, in chapter number 1, when I'm unpacking Anthony and the whole idea of the Anthony Ghost, and the Black Panther was his alter ego, but then he mixed in, and Ghost came from the fact that, his parents were both passed away. So Ghost was a great connection point between the Panther and, because the nickname for Black Panthers was, I think it's Ghost of the Forest or Ghost of the Jungle. But that's simple. I mean, we're talking about how, you could be writing a long origin story, but it's still going to get encapsulated in just a short statement. So the origin story is also, how they became who they are today, how the superpowers were bestowed upon them, what drives them internally to defeat the enemy, the ones in the external world and the ones inside of themselves, and the mission they're on to realize their extraordinary world. For example, Superman's origin story is born Kal-El, which is on the alien planet Krypton. Jonathan and Martha Kent adopt Kal-El when he crashes down to Earth, and they name him Clark Kent. Clark grows up on Earth, had adoptive parents, discovers that he's got superhuman powers, and the Kents teach Clark to use those superpowers responsibly to help others and fight crime or save the world. So, with your origin story, if you're not sure about the identity yet of your alter ego, then think about the stories of real life people or fictional characters from television, movies, books, comics. Is there a story you're drawn to? Why is it? What is it about that story that grabbed you by the heartstrings or captivated you? I mean, why I love the whole story of Luke Skywalker was right off the bat, I could resonate with Luke Skywalker because he grew up on a farm. Even though it was on a faraway planet, it was still, a farm. Wasn't raised by an aunt and uncle, but it was the farming thing that resonated, and had this like deep desire to want to do something big and huge in the universe, but always felt like he was stuck there. And in many ways, there's so many things that I've managed to mimic, which is left the farm, went out into the universe of our world, and and living far away from all of my family. But if I basically, almost Luke Skywalker helps, some of those stories help to give you an excuse to go and pursue the things that you most want to go and pursue. And the more and more that you fill your mind by reading successful people, biographies, autobiographies, they become great sources to find connection points in other people's stories. And then whether you create an alter ego from it, or they become a tribe in your mind of mentors and allies, it's a powerful way to get out of your own narrative or see how other people overcome their narrative. And boom, all of a sudden you've got your alter ego. So think about those core drivers. We've listed them in the workbook. Are there any stories or narratives attached to those core drivers that are meaningful for you? Don't forget, so core drivers are things like family, religion, community, nation, a recognizable group that you're a part of. It could be, gay and lesbian group, or it could be police officers and army, or it could be nurses or teachers. Like anytime you become a group, a lot of times you start to adopt the traits and behaviors of them. Most people just don't question them because it happens so unconscious, but you want to bring it up to the surface and just evaluate, okay, well, are these things helping me to pursue where I want to go, or are they holding me back, right? Is the fact that I say that my family has never been an entrepreneurial family helping me to pursue the goal that I have of being an entrepreneur? And if that's not, then let's take a look at relinquishing that or adding a different twist to it. Or with the alter ego comes from an entrepreneurial background. So, and in case you're inspired by an animal, focus on the traits of that animal and what they mean to you. I tell the story in the book about a lady whose inspiration comes from that of a buck, so a male deer, because it stands its ground. She never written, like everyone that says, oh, your spirit animal is a lion, she couldn't, it was hard for her because fundamentally she's built in a way where she is just super kind, super nice person, but she let people walk all over her all the time. She runs a marketing business. And so there was all this like scope creep. People would add more things to the project and she would never charge for it because she's nice. And so hers came from, she grew up in Germany. Nature is a big part of her family. And she's just really resonated with the idea of a buck because a buck stands its ground and with its antlers can fight off bears, can fight off cougars and mountain lions. And it does, it wins those battles. So it's her rooting in like, I want to stand my ground. So that's what she's activating in that moment of, she's got to honor her place. Lots of prompts in the worksheets for this mission to help you find and connect to your origin story in a powerful and emotional way as well. So one thing, we always want to test for that emotional resonance, and would love it if people could chime in, because I've said this a million times, but why is the emotional resonance so important when we're activating a new identity? Let me know in the chat while I take a sip of water. Exactly, no emotion, no action. So some specific origin stories tend to have more emotional resonance than others for a reason. There's a driving force behind these stories, very similar to your mission for creating the alter ego. Your job is to find those stories. Make sure whatever origin story you chose is one that you connect to. So, at the surface level, someone says, oh, Walter Payton or Ronnie Lott or Geronimo were Todd's alter egos, or the composite they all came together for that alter ego on the football field. But there was always more to it because I knew so much and know so much about the Native American culture, and knowing Geronimo and what he was fighting for, like that, spirit was also what I was attaching to. And same thing with Walter Payton or Ronnie Lott, like knowing more about their origin story only helped me to connect to that self that I was bringing onto the field. So, and a lot of times it's the simplest origin stories that become the most powerful. The origin story helps to fill in the blank and explains where your alter ego came from, explains how it developed its superpowers, why it needs those superpowers, and what they fight against. Okay, so without the story, all you're doing is you're creating tasks for yourself. Okay, so you're gonna, and you end up risk missing just that emotional connection to whatever it is that you're inspired by. So now you would then update the canvas with that origin story. So where that alter ego came from, what it's, again, you can also highlight in there, where those superpowers were developed from, why they developed the way that they were. Below, you've got the superpowers of what you want to be activating, but this is where, even though, and I say this at the beginning of chapter 4 in the book, building an alter ego is like the center of town. There's no one, right place to start. We've created a sequential process for everybody, but don't be afraid to go back and be updating parts of the canvas. If you get clarity here, you're like, oh, you know what? It's that's who I'm inspired by. And then the moment you know who you're inspired by, maybe it actually refines and changes what those superpowers are. So just because they're written down doesn't mean you can't go back and adjust, right? Getting back to the question earlier around, what if something doesn't work? Adjust, develop. Just like human beings, we're always cycling up. We're always, developing, better levels of awareness. So as you dive deeper into this, you're developing deeper levels of awareness. So don't be so fixed in the process. Okay, quick little check-in. Insights, takeaways, any ahas so far? Questions that you might have so far from what we just went through around developing that origin story? IS says, when I research my preferred alter ego, by far for my field of play, I discovered that my preferred alter ego by far has abhorrent skeletons. Step forward, Louis C.K., as I love his relaxed, offbeat, and self-deprecating delivery, but he has some appalling harassment that has come out. I find it hard to dissociate him from that, which is disturbing, but on the field of play, he delivered as I would love to. So do I start looking for a new alter ego? Yeah, if you've got friction in there, then in that person, then, disassociate. Then don't use that person. There's no shortage of amazing opportunities to be inspired by someone and something else. So again, don't create friction when you don't need to. Anna says, I have some trouble finding the origin story of my alter ego. It's Mary Poppins, and by definition, she appears mysteriously floating in the sky, and no one knows where she comes from. Should I just invent something? Sure. It's, you're the creative here. You're the one who gets to put pen to paper and establish where that came from. I mean, even that alter ego that I used of Geronimo was a composite of many. I just used the name Geronimo, but he was representing, more characters. And for me, that story in my head was created in a lab specifically just for me to help me go out there and perform at my absolute best. Okay. So that was me inventing it, but that's the power of our minds. It's your world in your own head. Or you could also, there might be something else out there about where she did come from. And I know that there's a new Mary Poppins movie that's coming out this year. So it'd be interesting to see if they actually add more of an origin story to her. Robin says, some insights, see how I can incorporate two people instead of one, easier when I look broader, some similarities between them too, okay?